you run
Hmm.
into a lot of issues. Like if you're trying to do something really pretty complex and you want it agent one to know that it needs to call agent three, and then agent three calls agent five. I mean, there's like so many different combinations of calls. So
Right. So in a swarm architecture, every agent has access to every other agent.
yes, exactly, exactly.
What would be the yeah? So was that architecture posited because there's some sort of like collaborative intelligence that would emerge, hopefully, or collaborative performance would outperform like an individual agent delegating in a supervisor pattern? I can't like because it sounds chaotic. Like what you're describing sounds chaotic and very impractical.
Yeah. Well, we could come back to that. But I can show. I actually have some examples of that I could show. Um,
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Trying to find a like a diagram. But yeah, each agent is aware of each other. They can delegate to each other, and it makes me wonder about like agent to agent. How is that? How would that be any different? Really, if you can have agents that call each other, don't necessarily have the same context. I don't know. I mean, there's so
I
many
think
different approaches, and to be honest, I'm not someone who necessarily nerds out about all the different design patterns. I think it's trying to what do you need to get done and what's the most simple way to get there? What's the
yeah.
straightest path?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the whole discussion point. The reason why these guys were debating is what is the right architecture in the right context for the task. When you say agent to agent, do you mean the 808 protocol that we were mentioning before?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I haven't
Um,
explored
because
that
that
enough to
well
know.
on that, like specifically in their documentation, they have their diagram, which is like you might have your agent architecture defined as a supervisor pattern in your research agent. And 808 then, like, and that's a contained unit. And 808 is a protocol for that to then go off and say, look, I really need to get access to, I don't know, the agent that manages your Salesforce, the Salesforce reporting instance. And the Salesforce agent may have its own pattern and it's a way for them to collaborate so that when it gets kind of like you and I have my own memory, it's like person to person as opposed to like within the one cognitive architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, that's where even if in a swarm, you could have subagents as well. I mean, you could have an entire subagent design. I'm trying to look. So this is what an
Oh, that's pretty.
example where you can
So
see it's just a complete
this is
spaghetti
LangGraph,
mess.
right?
What's that?
What is this? So what are we looking at? This is like an
So this
agent
is like a
architecture
swarm.
diagram. Oh, this is a swarm pattern,
Yeah,
right?
where
Yeah,
you can
okay,
see
got
if
it.
I move these around, so you can see every agent has a path to
Yeah. So if you
every.
imagine like a node diagram where every node is connected to every other node,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And it can become messy very fast. The other big thing about these swarm design patterns, and it's not just this one, Hub and Spoke has this as well, but um, you give the agent a tool that is transfer. So like here, if I call transfer to SQL agent, that's a tool call, the transfer part. But what I was saying earlier is if you make this really simple, and then instead of having an agent for every one of these things, maybe you have an agent it's like a React agent that has access to a number of tools and it's grouped by like type of, what's the purpose? Is it like file manipulation type stuff?
Mm.
So yeah, this is a disaster, man.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that no one's doing that architecture right
Well,
anymore.
that's what I don't know. It became really popular and wasn't that long ago. I don't have a sense for who's using it, when it makes sense necessarily, but played around
Yeah.
with it and I was like, I think a lot of these concepts work and make sense. It's just again, getting past
Yeah. So
the hype cycle. It's like just because you hear everybody start talking about these things doesn't necessarily mean it's the right.
yeah. So in that example, that pattern seems pretty simple and probably was a relic of the fact that, say, MCP protocols didn't exist and other things. So you would create agents that kind of act like tools, right? Which is slightly different. So, for example, like when we were at the LangChain conference, no one talked about any of the agents in production that look like that. And when they were like basically made available as, say, an agentic tool within an organization, the way it was exposed to the developer or the engineering organization was always from its own kind of API endpoints as an application, right? Rather than saying, well, like you've got a swarm of agents out here and you can just engage with all of them via like a central via like an agent environment. Sort of sounds like that's what a swarm architecture is, which would be completely chaotic, I'm assuming, if it wasn't, if
Yeah.
you're trying to do anything in production.
Did you just say that applications as agents? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like an agent kind of application effectively. So I'm thinking specifically of the BlackRock guys in their talk. They basically had to build like it was powered by LangChain solutions that any engineering team could build on top of and integrate with across all of their different other applications within their organization. So it's kind of like an internal agentic solution that could be engaged with by other engineering teams, and they had to build an interface in and out of it so that it could be maintained and on top of basically within their infrastructure stack.